Well, today we are making carbonara, spaghetti carbonara. And carbonara is basically a spaghetti with like pancetta or a good bacon. I guess I need to look at the thing here. A good bacon. Pancetta is like an Italian sort of cured meat bacon. It's not quite as salty, still kind of smoky. And oftentimes served with peas, although I think not traditionally. I think traditionally they don't serve peas. Not a lot of ingredients. It's easy to make. It's really good. It's kind of impressive. I want to show you how to do it. Okay, so this is our first time doing this. One thing you're going to want to do is cook your pasta, but also you're going to want to use a deep pot to put it all in. So typically what I do is I start with the bacon. I cook the bacon in something deep, sort of like this. See how deep that is? I don't know if you can see that or not. Yeah, deep pot. So you want to cook the bacon in that. And typically you're going to use a deep pot to also cook the spaghetti. That's not quite deep enough. I might use a little deeper one, like that one. Fill it full of water. Cook some pasta. Okay, got my water heating up. Got my pan here. I'm gonna go ahead and start heating it up too. Nothing too hot, like maybe like a 3 or a 4 here. There's that, and then I'm going to cut up my bacon. Or I like to use this thick, extra thick bacon. Wright brand's a really good brand. Hickory smoked. Hickory's the better smoked bacon. This particular bacon is kind of expensive, but it's the really good stuff. If you're gonna use your good stuff, this is it. There's a lot better bacon, but for the money, this is a really good bacon. But you know what? You can use any kind of bacon. I do recommend that you don't use pre-cooked bacon because you really kind of want the oil from the bacon to help season the dish. So I take something kind of like that. So I'm going to cut, in this case, I'm going to cut them for Morgan because Morgan, she's a vegetarian, but she will eat stuff with meat in it so long as she can pick it out. So I'm going to try to put it in chunks big enough that she can pick out. But I don't know, I'm using probably not quite a pound, maybe more than a half a pound, maybe 3/4 pound of bacon, maybe half, something like that. Yeah, probably half actually. So cut this in larger pieces, larger chunks like this. Remember, I already put the pan should be already getting hot. Now, in other cases, I probably would have cut this in half lengthwise and then cut it into smaller pieces. But again, I'm trying to keep them kind of chunky for our vegetarian. So a little tip when you are boiling the water, you want to add salt to the water when you are cooking pasta. They usually say make it like as salty as the sea, which is really salty if you think about how salty the sea is. But don't add the salt until it starts to boil, because what it does is it lowers both the boiling temperature, raises the boiling temperature and lowers the freezing temperature. That's why you use salt on sidewalks. So I'm going to put a top on here to keep that heat in. These are really thin. I need to get some thicker pots, but you want a deep pot so that your spaghetti will fit inside. Okay, so when you're doing this bacon cook, you want to kind of spread it out so that all the pieces are touching as much of the sides as possible, like that. And then the other thing you can do is really you just want to brown it for the most part. You don't want to get it too like crispy, crunchy, crispy. You don't like the tiniest bit of chew on it, but really you're trying to get that, render that oil out of there and all that goodness. Okay, the other thing you're going to need is Parmesan. I like this is from Kroger. This is like the Private Select brand. I really like it. It's not as expensive as like the Parmigiano Reggiano, which is like this specialty Parmesan from the Reggiano region of Italy. Very proprietary. You can't use that name unless it is from there, but and it is very good, no doubt. But this is a very less costly substitute. And honestly, I like shaving it myself as opposed to getting the already pre-shaved Parmesan. just because I have it in here. No, I'll use the big one. I'll use this just because basically I'm just going to melt it, so I'll use this to grate it with. But you're going to need Parmesan, grated Parmesan. You're going to need some frozen peas. Again, this is just a bag of frozen peas. Sometimes they might get a little bit clumped. You can feel like the big clumps in there. I'll just slam on the counter, break up those clumps. Really, you barely even cook, just the pasta will cook them. Of course, your spaghetti, to get some good spaghetti. Don't use angel hair. Use something with some tooth to it, some thick, heavy spaghetti. You can even use fettuccine or linguine or something like that if you wanted to. And then a couple of egg yolks. So I'll show you how to actually get the yolks out of the eggs. So I'm going to use a bowl for the yolks. But what I'm going to do is now normally you might save the whites from the eggs, and the yolk is the yellow part. You might save the whites from the eggs, but my family doesn't really care for meringue. And other than an egg white omelet, which I don't do much of, I'm probably just going to throw these away just because they're too much of a pain to keep. But you definitely can keep the whites and do stuff with them, but I'm just not going to do that tonight. So I'm just going to put it in the trash. So I'm going to break it up over the trash can here like that. I didn't leave myself very much. Typically you want 2 good cups because you're going to like go from 1 cup. See how there all the yolks, all the whites are going in there to the other. Transfer back and forth. Back and forth until the slimy bit goes away, and then boom, you got an egg yolk. The egg yolks are really used to kind of thicken and also, believe it or not, add a little bit of flavor to the sauce. It's kind of weird. The heat from the noodles will cook it. I'm using 2. I wonder if I shouldn't use 3. I'm making quite a bit. I may use 3. I may get a 3rd one, but you get the idea. Egg yolks. Be sure to wash your hands really good after you handle. I've already done it, but I didn't film it. But whenever you handle meat or eggs, that kind of stuff, wash your hands really good. So I used a lid that's a little bit smaller than this thing, so it fits way down in there. So the space that it's cooking in is a lot smaller. You know what I mean? Like the air stays trapped, so you're not heating this much space. You're heating just this much space. And then it makes the bacon cook a little faster. Just a little tip there. Using this because that thing's going to get hot, and then also you're going to have some oil on the bottom of this thing. So let's set it over here, and I'm going to toss this thing up. Some of these are getting good and crispy. I took the yolks that I made and I beat them up. She is eating a spinach salad, even though she does not care for spinach, and she's holding her mouth.
Those are fine.
Huh? What did you say?
I sort of like spinach fine.
Well, fine. Yes?
I like spinach fine.
Oh, okay. Hey, news to me. I have cooked the bacon. Bacon is pretty much cooked. And this is the part that people have trouble with, but I'm going to leave that in there. That stays in there, all that oil, because that's going to flavor the pasta, believe it or not. There's not much to this pasta. There is no sauce, for one thing. Cat, shut it. Thank you. Yeah, so we're going to leave that in there. I'm going to add the pasta to this. This is still going, right? Or did I cut it off? Dadgummit, I cut them both off. Oh, well. So before I add my noodles are almost ready. Before I add my noodles back to my bacon, I want to add a little bit of garlic. I use the squeezed garlic because it's already minced, and you can kind of figure out like how many just by a dollop. If you ever looked at a garlic clove, you know, pretty small. Do it like that, maybe a big one. So you know, if you do a dollop about like that per garlic clove, so that's probably 1 clove. 2. I'm gonna put 4. 3, 4. So I got 4. Basically, that's about 1, 2, 3, 4 garlic cloves, and you can just sort of guesstimate. It doesn't have to be perfect because every garlic clove is not the same. Hey, noodles ready. So I am going to use my pasta fork here, and I'm going to taste one just to see if it tastes okay. Make sure it's not too slimy. Not slimy, but you don't want it undercooked. You definitely want it overcooked. That's about perfect. Did this for 7 minutes. 7 minutes and spaghetti seems to work like a charm. Now, while the bacon and I've just put the noodles in the bacon, I took a cup and I'm just going to dip out carefully because it's hot. About a cup of pasta water, and what I'm going to do is, this is sort of a technique that kind of an old school technique. That's you actually use egg yolks, in a carbonara, and this is a way to get the egg yolks up to temperature without turning them into scrambled eggs. That's kind of the trick. So what you're going to do is you're going to add water to the mixture a little at a time. The water's hot, just got off the stove, it was boiling. You're going to add a little at a time to warm these things up, but you're going to keep stirring, stir. So I'm going to add a little at a time, add a little bit of pasta water, stir. I do this when I make Greek soup, and I do it when I make carbonara. I'm trying to think if I use it for anything else. Careful because the thing's hot. And also, you kind of want that starch, the starchy water also helps to kind of bind everything together. Because we're going to just add this directly to the noodles. I'm not sure if I'm going to add this whole thing, maybe a half a cup, maybe a little bit more. Alright, so you can kind of see here how I've kept it moving the whole time, and now I'm going to introduce it to the noodles that I put with the bacon, and then I'm going to stir that up even further. So now I've got all that bacon grease that was in there, as well as the egg mixture and the actual bacon. And then it's also time to add the peas. Remember, these are frozen peas, so they don't have to be frozen. I mean, they can just be fresh peas. They can just be cold peas or room temperature peas. It doesn't really matter. But you can see I'm adding probably a half a cup to 3/4 of a cup there to that, and just going to stir. I'm also going to go ahead and add that Parmesan. There's Parmesan that I grated. I put some of this in the pesto, but the rest of it I'm going to put in here. And again, stir. Now here's the thing, when you stir it up and you find that there's really no sauce left, well, it's not really sauce. A lot of people get this wrong. If you do feel like you need a little, like you need to just thin it out a little, like it's getting too thick or too cheesy or too sticky, you can just add a little extra pasta water. That'll thin it out a little bit. But remember, it also kind of thickens it too, so it sort of does both. And if you could just smell that, my goodness, it smells good. So when I was a kid, I used to watch Justin Wilson. He was this Cajun cook, and he used to show off by measuring in his hands. And I'm gonna need about 2 teaspoons of salt. Fine black pepper. But what he used to do is he used to take his little teaspoon to show you. There's 1 and there's 2. Just so you know what 2 teaspoons look like in your hand, so you don't necessarily have to use a measuring spoon all the time. Anyway, take that fine black pepper, mix all that in. Now, I sort of cheated because I used pepper bacon, and then I also know that since my oldest daughter is a vegetarian and doesn't want to eat the bacon, understandably, that's why I made her the pesto. She also doesn't really care for black pepper all that much. I'm not sure how she's my daughter. She definitely is. But if she were eating it, I would not put quite as much pepper. Again, this has gotten a little thick, so I'm going to add a little bit more sauce, a little bit more pasta water to it. Not a lot, just a little. And I think we are about ready to eat. I already got this dirty, so I'm going to use it, but I'm going to use it really lightly instead of pushing really hard and get like a nice small, see how small that is? If you just barely touch it, you can get small pieces if you don't push too hard on it. But a little extra garlic on top, a little extra Parmesan on top. And I want a little extra black pepper on mine because me likey the black pepper. And there you have it. Pasta carbonara. Trust me, it's good.